cultivate a similar Christian imagination now?
I think one, we have to not be afraid to ask questions
Hmm.
and not be afraid of our doubts. I tell my students, if you have no questions about your faith, you're delusional. You think you've achieved omniscience.
Hmm.
We're pea brains. We're trying to understand and grow. And you can't grow unless you lean into the things you don't understand. And in leaning in, you may come up with a misdiagnosis or a misunderstanding. That's why you need to do it in community. 60% of the word you in New Testament Greek is plural. Now, part of that's pragmatic, right? They didn't have printing, so people would come to the church to hear the reading of scripture and so on. So the letters were written to a community. But also, I think still it should be written to a community. We should understand it in community. None of us can do really great theology in isolation from others. We need to do it in isolation. And I would say something about that too, in light of evangelism. I don't know what this is. I remember one time I thought, I need to tell people about Jesus. And I've always had this since I became a Christian. I was talking to people about Jesus. I still do it. I have conversations every week with non-believers about faith. And so I decided I'd go to a donut shop, and I'll just talk to people at the donut shop. I got there at 10 o'clock. Nobody's at donut shops at 10 o'clock. Maybe a cop stops by for a cup of coffee or something. If you want to go to a donut shop, you go from 6 to 8 in the morning. And you see these people dropping by for their donut and their cup of mud before they go to work. And I think you could write a doctoral dissertation on the sociological subcultures of donut shops in America. There were about 8 or 10 little tables at this donut shop, chairs around them. Every day I'd go, I'd see people sitting at the same table, same people, same table, all that stuff. I didn't have any strategy. I was a doofus. I had a heart. I was praying for the people at the donut shop. My strategy was this stupid. I thought I'd go have my Greek Bible there. I'd be reading my Greek Bible. Somebody come in and say, "What's that?" I'd say, "It's a Greek Bible." They'd say, "Oh, can I ask Jesus in my heart?" That's how stupid I was. And there was this guy who would come into the donut shop every day. And I would just go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He'd come in. And he looked like Walter Matthau. Remember that actor?
Yeah.
I looked like he'd either been weaned on a dill pickle or baptized in lemon juice. I mean, he had a scowl on his face. And he'd walk in and I'd say hi to him. He would scowl at me and he'd sit at a table just to my right every day. Never said a word to me. I'd say, hi, good to see you. And he'd say, I had it in my prayer book, the grumpy guy. One day I'm reading in my Greek Bible and all of a sudden I hear somebody say, "Can I sit here?" And it was the grumpy guy. I said, "Yeah, what's your name?" He said, "Gene." I said, "What do you do for a living, Gene?" He says, "Why? Are you writing a book?" And I made a dumb mistake. I asked too much too soon. And I realized you can ask a public question of a person, "What's your name?" And this donut shop was in Whittier, California. I could have said, "Are you from Whittier?" It's a public question. It's not intrusive. He's in Whittier. And then you listen to the answer, and the answer lets you go deeper with the next question, because the answer gives you permission to ask about the data. They said, one time I met a guy, I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Peter. I was in Chicago." I said, "Are you from Chicago?" He said, "No, I grew up in Albuquerque, but when my parents divorced, I moved with my mom to Chicago." He didn't have to tell me that. He gave me permission to ask about that. And eventually, as we asked deeper and deeper questions, and he gave deeper and deeper answers, I knew how to share the gospel with him in a way that would be heard, because I got to that place. Now, with Gene, I screwed up. I didn't know this then. And a lot of times what happens is if we share our faith with somebody and it doesn't go well, we just say, I'm out of here. This is too difficult. I don't want to do this and stuff. We don't treat any other area in our life like that. If you're married and you get married and it's all great fun and stuff, and then all of a sudden you have a little spat, you say, "Whoa, this is a little more complex than I thought it was going to be." Do you bail on your marriage? You have troubles with your kids? Do you bail on your kids? The first time you go to work and you've never worked at that place and you make a mistake, do you say, "Okay, this is nuts. I'm never going to do this again. It's too complex"? No. Why do we treat evangelism different than any other area in our life? And I don't understand this thing. But anyway, I've moved a million miles away from whatever question you answered. But did you notice I was able to work in what I wanted to say?